at that really bad spot, the option is despair,
Right.
and hope is much, much better than despair. There's a high correlation between a sense of isolation and distress. Work does not tire you. Resistance to work tires you. When you're
Yeah.
doing what you love, the challenging stuff is what brings you alive
Right.
because it's what you want to do. The actual work is actually an expression of creativity and love.
Hello and welcome to the Success Differently podcast. My name is Michèle Sorgaroli and I'm your host. And today we have the distinct pleasure of welcoming our guest, Derek LaCroix, King's Counsel and a PhD in therapeutic counseling. Derek has been the executive director of the Lawyers Assistance Program of BC Canada since 1996, where he has devoted 4 decades to guiding legal professionals through addiction, anxiety, and stress. A former trial and criminal defense lawyer, Derek is now on a mission to humanize the legal profession, rather. Derek also leads the Haven Foundation and serves on social justice and spiritual wellness boards. He is passionate about justice, truth, and relationships, and his journey from overcoming personal struggles to transforming the legal culture speaks to a deeply held belief in being the change we want to see. Derek, it's such a joy to invite you today, and thank you for joining us.
Great. Thanks for having me. It's great.
This is a sweet. So I'm going to go way, way back a few moons,
Okay.
if you don't mind. And I want to actually take you back to university because based on some online content, I noticed that you studied in university phys ed and physiological psychology, and then you went straight into law school. Is that accurate?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, what inspired you to study law at that time?
Well, interesting enough for somebody who did phys ed, I wanted to be a lawyer really since I was like 8 years old.
Oh my gosh.
Um,
Wow.
that was 1957, and
Oh,
John Diefenbaker was running for prime minister, already prime minister. And I
oh,
remember my dad was a supporter, and John Diefenbaker was from Prince Albert, and so was my dad, and his dad, and everybody, family. And so I was out with my dad putting down they had little footprints called and Follow John. And then I started reading about him because I was a voracious reader even at 8 years old.
mm,
And what I read, he was a top criminal defense lawyer. Even though he's from Prince Albert, he traveled all over the country defending criminals. And I was just mesmerized by his story. I didn't want to become prime minister. I wanted to become a criminal defense lawyer. So that's when it started. And I
wow.
read books and did all that. It was, I really liked it.
No
And
kidding. So
yeah.
from 8 years old, you were already taken by the and interesting criminal defense specifically. It seems like that's what caught your eye.
Hmm. Yeah. Defending rights. It was about rights. And, people forget that John B. Baker brought in the first Bill of Rights. He was all about rights and freedoms and stuff. And I really was about that.
So yeah, so justice is a big thing for you, as evident. We've had some conversations around this as well. What did that start when you were 8 years old, or do you think that was something earlier, or were there some influences in your life that really
I,
impacted that?
I, I think it was earlier. Um, I'm Interesting enough, I was kind of a scrawny little kid, but I developed later, a bit later by weightlifting and things. But
Mm-hmm.
um, according to my family, um, I would be seen defending neighborhood kids from bullies.
Oh my
Like
gosh.
I never really liked bullies, and I defend kids. I don't specifically remember those incidents, but I can
Yeah.
imagine it.
Wow. So you
Um,
were you were always a justice warrior
yeah, yeah.
from the time you were little.
Yeah. And I was a bit of a troublemaker in school if I thought the teachers were being unfair.
Ah,
I'd cause some trouble.
yeah.
Now
And
that might have been justice, or it might have been me just being bored and wanting to cause trouble. I don't know.
both, right? So here we are in law school, and then you graduate and you go. I imagine you became a criminal defense lawyer right at that time and went to trial. You went straight into litigation. Is that accurate?
Right after articles,
Hmm.
um, I went to the Crown
Okay.
for 3 years because I wanted to get into court a lot. I wasn't
Hmm.
in articles. I did a couple of things in court and I wasn't any
Yeah.
good, I didn't
Yeah.
think. So I
Uh,
went as a prosecutor and that was fun. It was fun and it was good, but I was always leaving. And so at about 3 years, less than 3 years, I went out and with a couple of my classmates, we started a law firm and I did
okay.
criminal law.
Okay, so you actually started a law firm. So you've been an entrepreneur for a while.
Right. I sort of think of myself as unemployable.
Given that you were a scrappy young man who was, a troublemaker in school, it's perhaps that's true. That's awesome. And often that's the case, right? So, okay, so you've been an advocate for justice for a very long time. So
Yeah.
then, you've spoken openly about your own personal struggles that you had
Yeah.
to work through. So, to the extent that you're comfortable, could you share a little bit about your journey as a lawyer that led you to some of the awareness for the shift into where you are today, the
Sure.
work you're doing today?
Well, back then, this is a long time ago, by the way.
Yeah,
It's
I
like
know we're going back
50
away.
years,
Yeah.
51 years. Um, Drinking and carousing
Mm,
was kind of a badge of honor.
mm,
You get a lot of pats on the back, and the lawyer, coming to court smelling of alcohol or not drunk, but coming to
mhm,
court after a long night and
mm.
was you kind of got pats on the back for it. And
Wow.
it was sort of idealized, even though the John Diefenbaker and others of the best lawyers around didn't drink. A couple of them
Mm,
had drank and stopped.
mhm.
Um, but there was a lot of us who just partied pretty hard. I don't, back, it was a very interesting time because I'm a baby boomer and everything exploded. I mean,
Yeah.
there were very few lawyers. I think, um, well, I'm number 4,116 in the history of BC. At the time when I was called, there were just over 2,000 lawyers.
Wow.
And there were, I don't know, maybe 50 who did a lot of trials. I mean, there
Yeah.
might have been who did a lot, who were,
Very small community then,
it
hey?
was small.
Right.
Um,
Wow.
and, and then, I mean, the sheriff's services, the Crown Council, just a whole bunch of things became like put into the government. There was huge change, and it was filled with young people. Like
Mm,
we were all young
right.
and frisky, and so we had the energy, and we were like, it was hard work. All of us worked hard. We
Yeah.
loved what we were doing, and that was great. But
Mm.
the partying was actually great too. And for a lot of people, they knew when to stop,
Yeah.
or they eventually grew out of it for a lot. Not everybody, but not me. I like to say I'm actually addicted to more. There's not
Oh.
if it all feels good, I just want more and
Hmm.
and more.
Hmm.
And over time, I got caught up where work and um, friends and working out plays. I still played basketball and stuff. That all started diminishing as the partying got
Hmm.
more. So I
Hmm.
wasn't somebody who sat by myself drinking.
Hmm.
I
Hmm.
also, for most of the time, didn't. I was what's called a binge drinker.
Hmm.
I didn't drink all the time, but
Hmm.
when I did, it was very frequently 3, 4, or 5 days of
Wow. Yeah.
intense going. So it was. I knew. I actually knew in law school I had a problem,
Oh, wow.
but I knew early in my career I had a problem,
Hmm.
and I started going to AA occasionally. I started reading every self-help book there is. I
Hmm.
started doing
Interesting.
some therapy.
Uh-huh.
I just tried things, but I really didn't want to change. I just really wanted to be a party boy.
Well, when you have with the Um, for someone who's reading as a young boy, who you were reading so much, there's an intensity in your style, your personality that is hungry for stimulation, I would imagine.
Absolutely.
Right?
Like I had very low tolerance for let me put it this way. When I got into recovery, there's a thing
Mm.
they talk about serenity. And
Mm.
what I discovered is serenity was an acquired taste. it's kind of odd to say, but it was like I was used to being agitated. Um,
Yeah,
I did discover, well, I I knew I was anxious and blah, blah, I had some issues, but I discovered later I had some issues,
right.
but they were what for most of my life I called them my edge. I didn't call them
Yeah,
a disorder
right.
because instead of collapsing, I just
Yeah,
worked extra hard.
right. Well, that was your almost, in a sense, that would be a superpower if you're framing it that way. You're seeing that as something that is giving you that edge, that competitive advantage, that thing that makes you succeed or be successful, right? And
Right.
so
Yeah.
it totally makes sense that that's something that we attach ourselves to,
Yeah.
right?
It does.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that and looking back, like some of this is from looking back too, but
Mm-hmm.
um I kind of don't come from the place where we're we're distressed people, like we're broken people.
Yes.
Um Typically now what I try to do is things like whether you call it the addiction or the anxiety or whatever the
Mm-hmm.
issues I had, there's they come from actually the dysfunctional part comes from me trying to protect myself from things and misusing powers.
Right.
So I had the power to have high intensity. I had the power
Mm.
to um, I had a nervous system that was good for playing football and basketball, put it that way.
There you
Not
go.
so great for being calm and in court, but it was
Right.
good. It was good for writing exams. It was actually good for in court for any intense situation,
Mm-hmm.
but
Mm-hmm.
it wasn't good for non-intense situations. It was
Right.
always agitated.
And that would
So
explain actually your binge drinking too, because that had an intense period, right? So
it
even
was
that,
very,
it showed
yeah,
up everywhere in your person, or not everywhere, I don't know that, but showed up
it
a
showed
lot.
up it
You did
showed
it?
up
Okay. Don't want
virtually
to make it sound.
everything I did. I mean, even my training cycles,
Yeah.
like I would train and, really hard, but I would often end up injuring myself because I would
Uh-huh.
train and then I would go and then I would
Mm,
just do more. And then the more I did, I do more. And eventually I just get hurt.
right.
Um,
Wow.
so it, it did show up
Yeah.
everywhere.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Um, and, it was good for getting grades in school. Like school was particularly good because it was, in university, what, 8 months in high
Yeah.
school or whatever, 10 months. I mean, it was a sprint
Yeah. Yeah.
and you could get by well with cramming and all this. So that was coming out of school into work.
Mm-hmm.
Even though I loved being a lawyer and everything, I remember it was actually partway through articles, I had the realization that this wasn't going to end. Like, I'd played sports and there's a season and it ends and then
Yeah.
there's a new season. School and then it ends and there's a new
There's a
year.
rest period.
Now there was
Mm,
just, wow,
every day.
the goal, there was no sort of immediate goal. There was a something.
Mm,
And learning to be in the process of life has been a big part of my challenge. I was good at um, achieving goals, particularly short-term goals,
mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
or even kind of long-term goals that way. But um,
Mm-hmm.
focusing on the process
Yeah.
and that was very hard um, for a whole bunch of reasons. Partly
Yeah.
because of my internal dialogue, which said I wasn't good enough,
Mm,
and I had to run away from. But partly just because of this nervous thing, that yeah, in order to be in a process, you got to be somewhat calm and measured.
yeah. Well, it's
And
yeah, what I'm hearing is you were a very practiced sprinter and you hadn't yet acquired the skill to run a marathon, so to speak,
yeah,
right?
that
Which
would be a way to
requires,
put it.
yeah,
Yeah,
practice sprinting. And I think that's it's interesting as we notice our style and we start looking back and seeing patterns. We're like, oh, okay, because we're all different. And these intense periods, particularly if you're a practice sprinter,
yeah,
and you're good at it, it can be pretty compelling, I would
yeah,
imagine.
yeah. No, I still I I don't sprint much anymore. I don't sprint much
Mm.
anymore because I'll pull muscles,
There you go.
unfortunately,
Yeah,
because I still like it.
yeah,
And I have acquired the taste for serenity, and I
Mm,
now see life more as a journey or a stroll, a walk through life, uh,
mm,
which, so then that's where um, I've learned more about connecting with people and
yeah,
the value of not just friendships, but
yeah.
connections and people to be on the journey with. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and I always had friends around, but they were situation specific sports or whatever it was. There was things we were doing
Right.
as
Together.
opposed, yeah, together, not just hanging out. I mean, some of them are my friends now. We just hang out, but um, so I didn't realize how inept I was at actually connecting with people, to tell you the truth,
Oh,
and how
interesting.
actually lonely I was
Oh,
because I spent very little time by myself.
right.
I always made sure to have somebody or something around. Um,
Yeah.
so that was part of the urge to like drink and party and do
Mm-hmm.
those or overwork
Right.
is to fill that hole so I didn't have to feel how awful it felt just by myself.
Oh, yeah. There are different ways of running away or covering up or hiding from, if you will, from those feelings, right? And
Yeah.
that was your path. So thank you so much for sharing this story with us. I'm sure a lot of people relate in various ways to your experience. Um, so I'm curious, you were a practicing lawyer for how long before you made the switch into what you're doing now?
Oh, well, how did you say? I was practicing for about 10 years before I got into recovery.
Okay.
And I would say the first 8 of those very successfully, actually.
Uh-huh.
Uh, the next two, particularly the last one of that, pretty much, I
Mm.
wasn't doing big trials anymore, but I was
Okay.
still doing
So
trials. Not,
was that the catalyst for your, as you said, going into recovery at that point? Was that last year, was there something that happened in that last year that caused you to make a shift?
um,
Or was it just a building awareness or?
yeah, um, a number of things.
Okay.
One is I ran out of money.
Oh,
I'd had quite a bit, and I'd done very well in real estate and practice and everything. It was the 70s and early 80s were good
they
years.
were good for real estate. Yes, they were.
And
Yeah,
so, but I ran out of money, and I didn't want to just drink
right. Yeah.
by myself. Um, I got, yeah, I got, yeah, I got
Yeah. So
tired of
of the way
not
things were.
doing the kind of trials I wanted to do. I
Okay.
was doing, I got tired of that, and um, and then I just reached a point where I
Mm,
actually couldn't practice anymore. I mean,
okay.
I could have,
Oh,
but I didn't want to.
yeah.
My
Caught up with you.
standard had got so
Mm,
low that I thought I do
yeah.
not want to jeopardize that. And
Interesting.
so really it was to save my legal career
Right.
and and that and the pain of watching, I guess I just did see, yeah, I
Mm,
can barely do sober up long enough to do two
hmm.
small trials a month.
Wow.
Um,
That would
so
be
that
hard.
really, really was it. And then, no money to do stuff.
Yeah.
So that was it.
Yeah. It was time.
Um,
So
yeah.
thank you. Yeah, I can feel that that was a challenging period for you. So so if we fast forward and come from where you were to your passion today, helping others, I read an article where you were quoted, where you now in your at the Lawyers Assistance Program, um, now when they come to you too late often. You were quoted by saying when they come, they're often coming a couple of years too late. So what took you from practicing law to acquiring this taste for serenity, if you will, and starting to help your fellow professionals through their own journey of anxiety, addiction, and stress?
Well, first of all, after that 10, well, actually it was 11 years.
Okay.
Um, then I sobered up. I had another 8 years practicing, and I got back to doing jury trials and bigger trial and financially doing well and stuff.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I was in a really good spot.
Okay.
During that time, though, in recovery, I did a lot of AA, a lot.
Mm, mm-hmm.
I did other personal growth things,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of that. I mean, I
Mm,
became a facilitator for an organization called Context Training, which did personal growth things. It's a lot like, well, what EST, which is no longer around, which is now Landmark
okay.
Education,
Mm-hmm.
like that. And then I went to a place called The Haven where we did psychoeducation and body-centered therapies and stuff. And I
Mm,
just did that. I was doing it to save myself,
right.
is what I was doing.
Mm-hmm.
And at some point, I'd done all the courses and done everything. And all I had to do was a practicum and get a diploma in counseling. Um, in the course of that, I met a person who became kind of a friend, and he sold his business, had a lot of money in Oregon. And so I went down there and we started up a biotech business. And that went, it was sort of fun. It was good for a while. Some business problems happened
Mm.
between he and me.
Oh.
And, and he had the money. But in any event, so I was, I was, I'd already left practice. That was about the only thing that would have got me to leave practice. It was very
Mm,
exciting.
okay.
It
Mm-hmm.
was a positive way to use my creativity and my desire to the high energy
Yeah.
and willingness to endure. Well, in the entrepreneurial thing, kind of like,
Yeah.
well, it was fun. Um, so I was available, and interesting enough, like when I sobered up, myself and another person, Russ Mackay, started actually lawyers 12-step recovery group,
Okay.
and there was another
Mm-hmm.
couple of people who were with us, but basically it was us. And so we'd already started that um, earlier in my last year or so of drinking. A lawyer, an older lawyer who had been a friend of my my dad's, my
Mm-hmm.
parents,
Oh, wow.
tried to help me, and so I was used to lawyers helping lawyers in that sense,
Okay. Nice.
all in it together.
Yeah.
And then um,
Mm,
long story, but Russ had actually and Art Vertlieb and a number had started the Lawyers Assistance Program in 1990. And it was a AA outreach, essentially, a 12-step outreach,
okay.
because Russ was part-time and stuff like that. But he was going back to practice. And so it was time to build it into either stop or build it into a real full service, broad brush
Mm,
organization. And I had at that point a counseling certificate. Well, I had more than that. I had some bunch of training and a bunch of things. Um, and the 12-step stuff and a lot of connections in the legal community. And I'd done business and stuff. So there it is. There I started and it was great because I believe passionately in the value and the of the legal profession. I
mm,
do. And also in the concept of peer support.
mm,
Not uh, intense therapies and a bunch of those kinds of things really can help people turn their life.
mm-hmm.
But really, for good long-term um, change, I think we need people in our lives walking with us.
Mm,
And so for the long term, and also then some of the more difficult, when you're really stuck and difficult, it really helps to have people around who've gone through the same thing, who
yeah.
can share hope.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. I'm not really a fan of hope generally in the sense because hope takes you out of the present. Hope means, oh, I hope it gets better. I hope this.
Oh,
However, at that really bad spot, the option is despair,
right.
and hope is much, much better than despair. And knowing what it's like to be in that place of absolute, like no, how would I say, complete despair, no confidence in myself, and
Mm-hmm.
thinking it was hopeless.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Seeing other people and connecting with other people who had gone through something similar really was life-saving.
Yeah. Well, I would imagine that's where hope is valuable because it shows you what can be possible for you too, right? When you
Right.
see what others are doing. So it gives you a light, I would imagine.
Exactly. That'd be
Mm,
a great way because, we're stuck in this place of, well, for me at least, and I think basically totally focused on ourselves, but totally focused on how we're inadequate.
right. What's not working?
We're
Yeah.
hopeless,
Hmm.
and the situation is hopeless. And so it's hard to even take, even though if somebody who's watching says, well, why wouldn't you quit?
Right.
But, you're in a place where quitting doesn't even seem like an option or like,
Right. Without
uh,
hope, it wouldn't be. Quit.
no,
Why would I quit? There's no hope,
why would I quit?
right?
Or if
Mm,
I quit and do this, so what? It
yeah.
won't help. But if you see somebody else who's done it and doing it, um,
Ah,
it gives hope.
yeah.
And that's a huge, huge, huge thing.
Interesting. You're touching on a really interesting idea here. You said, first, your passion and your belief in the value of your profession, so important. So really knowing that you've been an advocate of justice since you were a little boy is a critical piece here. But the other piece that really elevates that is this concept of community or peer-to-peer support or people walking alongside you. And these are people who understand you, who are
Yeah,
part of your ecosystem in a way that allows you and you to connect. You feel understood, you feel seen, you feel heard, because maybe they've been there, or at least they have an appreciation for what you might be going through,
yeah,
right? Whether it's an exciting entrepreneurial journey that's taking you to new heights, or whether you're moving through a challenging time and recovering and trying to heal, that community piece is a really big one.
yeah, yeah. And all right. And, one of the things that sort of double back, but I sort of said it, but I'll say it even clearer. One of the things that saved my life
Mm,
when I was stuck at the bottom and got me to stop and change was I didn't want to, the one thing I had left, like that I was unwilling to let go of is the practice of law.
mm,
My love for being a lawyer and for the legal profession really stopped, got me to stop. And coupled with the lack of money. But
mhm.
um, that was one thing I would not, I lost I didn't care about relationships or money or
Yeah.
anything else. But that one thing, because
Ah,
it's never this sort of concept of justice in the legal profession even has always been high on my mind. I mean, when I went to Oregon into business, I I actually wrote the Oregon bar exam that got called to the bar in Oregon. Um, so I'd be a lawyer down there too.
yeah.
I wasn't true. I mean, I guess I did some legal stuff in the business, but
Yeah.
I just
Yeah.
I got involved with the Oregon Attorney Assistance Program, and I did stuff just to be around. Uh,
Oh my gosh.
uh,
I mean, I love that. And I keep thinking back to this little 8-year-old boy who was influenced so strongly by your exposure to Diefenbaker and how at that age the impact of connecting with that kind of possibility, something you may not have even been aware of at that age, and sort of being exposed to it and just lighting that fire. And here we are today, so many years later, right?
yeah.
So now, as executive director of the Legal Assistance, Lawyers Assistance Program, and some of the multiple of other things that you're involved in on as board members and whatnot, what is it that shifted for you? I know we've talked about relationships in the past and how important relationships are. And you talked about this a little bit earlier, where I was thinking about, number 4,116, I think you said, that's what I wrote down, and just the strong community of lawyers. And it was relatively small. And so this peer-to-peer was something that was a really big part of your early career.
Mhm.
This community and these relationships, these friendships. What are you seeing now in law as you're helping lawyers today move through their challenges? What's community? What are you seeing in community today that might be different?
Um, well, it's more formalized. There's, how to say it? I think there's a tremendous amount of isolation among lawyers, um, and a tremendous yearning for it. So I think the things like the CBA and the CBA groups and the trial lawyers and different little small, well, I mean, they're not small, but different groups are
Hmm.
growing as more and
Mm,
more join those groups
yeah.
and having, gatherings.
Right.
So that is happening. Um, and I think, yeah, I see that. Uh, I'd say a large percentage of the people that I end up seeing are aren't really part of that. They're very isolated. Like there's a high correlation between a sense of isolation and distress. Very high.
Mm.
I'm actually reading a lot now and studying a lot about longevity and and health span as opposed to lifespan. I
Yeah.
I don't know why,
Can't
given
imagine.
my extreme youth, but aside from that, I am.
Oh.
And what's been interesting is, and this is only in the like the research is caught up and the sense of being connected and part of something has always been important in mental health, like,
Hmm.
or not always, but
Hmm.
become. But recently, this a sense of connection and it's sort of a community has moved to number one in the longevity health scale, ahead of exercise. Exercise, particularly
Hmm.
weight-bearing exercise, is incredibly important. It's a broken bone. I mean, it's all complicated there, but and interesting, like, yeah. So I'm going to go back to how did I end up in phys ed?
Okay.
Because I've always been fascinated with the human body and lifting. And so I took a lot of physiology and anatomy courses and science-based research. And at those days, the psychology department at UBC was actually it was a research oriented into the physiology of things. So that's proven useful in the course of my counseling
Yeah,
because
I
I
would
do
imagine.
a lot of my training was on body-centered psychotherapies too. Um, and so now, but coming to eh, health span,
Yeah.
longevity, I won't call it anti-aging. Um, I like to, but um, it's back to this, there's the physiology of things
Okay.
and which is very important, diet and exercise and all of that, incredibly important. I also think it's incredibly important for good mental health.
Mm.
Um, but this connection thing now is really getting the prominence it deserves.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, and the interesting thing, it's not, it's not even, well, it's interesting, logical even. If you have a mental health issue and substance use disorder, I mean, I kind of put them all the same. We don't feel right. We have often negative thoughts about ourselves, or some people negative thoughts about others, whatever it is.
Hmm.
It naturally causes us to contract
Yeah.
and we don't want now, then we feel bad
Yeah.
about ourselves or we don't have the energy or blah. So now we detach even more.
Right.
So that's part of I call it the vortex. We just keep going and we get tighter and tighter grip, even if intellectually we say, oh yeah, I want to get out of this.
Yeah.
Trying to get out becomes harder and harder because, oh,
Right.
now I've got to connect with these people.
Right.
Um, and it's one of the things I try to do in my working with people, but also
Mm.
hopefully in our groups and with our peers is it's just about being there and connecting, letting the other person open, not trying to force the connection,
Yeah.
but be open to the connection.
Right.
So I mean, I spent well in the 10 years I was trying to I used to say stop drinking, but really I was trying to stop getting in trouble and destroying myself
You're trying to
while still
moderate.
drinking and partying.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
it was,
Yeah, that's like those are conflicting, what we call conflicting intentions, right?
yeah, there were conflicting intentions. And
Aw.
it was, but during that time, if I went to meetings, and I did, I went to quite a few, say, any different kinds of meetings, I would kind of I call it go late, sit there, not talk to anybody, and leave. So I didn't form any connections. When I finally got it, like really
Mm.
literally the next day, I went, and because I'd been around, I knew who I wanted to ask to be a sponsor. Because he had the same, he'd been a successful business person,
Mhm.
failed bon vivant, and rebuilt. And I went, okay, talk about hope. That's what I
Mm.
want.
Yeah.
And I knew because I'd been around where to find him. And
Yeah.
so I immediately jumped in. And the people that jump in, it doesn't have to be 12 steps, something could be anything.
Right.
Um, that jump in, um, do better.
The
Just
case
they do,
with anything, right? The more you
yeah,
put into it, the more you get out of it. Hmm.
yeah.
Yeah,
And I
so
often
true.
recommend to clients, I mean, because not everybody's even in addiction, but in anything, if they're sort of isolated, I do recommend that they join, a CBA group or a trial lawyers or any the South Asian Bar or any of these kind
Right.
of organizations and just go.
Yeah.
And those that do that kind of stuff tend to start feeling better about themselves and doing better.
Yeah. I would imagine they're surrounded in, by, again, they can see they're in a peer group of different levels of commitment and success and their
Yeah,
journey, and they would be able to connect with others who are on a similar path. May
yeah,
not look identical, but there's something about that sense of belonging that makes it feel, I think, certainly from, my perspective, it makes it feel okay. It makes it feel safer or better, right?
yeah,
It's like, I can do this.
yeah.
I can absolutely see that. So one thing, just pivoting a wee bit, but not quite.
Yeah. Okay.
What I've noticed, can I share a little bit about what I've been hearing? Because
Yeah.
this has just been so much fun listening to your story, and I'm thinking about the different themes. And so we've got this young little scrappy boy who's a troublemaker in school, and that was the part of with you where, interestingly, your human body. You said you were small, right? You were scrawny. You said, I think that was your word. So then
Oh,
you're
I
in.
wasn't particularly short, but yeah,
Yeah, yeah, you were a smaller frame perhaps.
yeah,
But nonetheless, and then you were interested in the body, and you said that started, you started building and weightlifting and whatnot and building up frame. And then as that was happening, there was also justice involved in that. And there was also this idea that you were interested in the human body and the physiological psychology way back when.
yeah.
And here we sit today, and all of those things, your whole journey has converged into what you're doing now.
Yeah,
I find
yeah.
that, and what I'm noticing is the passions that were present as a young man, in your high school and university years, as a young man, those passions have shown up today in this form, which I think is a very interesting. It's always interesting to reflect back on our story and look back and go, oh, wow, I was, in some way, maybe Derek, you were destined to be here.
Well, yeah, yeah. I mean, look, well, going to my childhood, which we always lived in good areas, and I was always physically well looked after in the sense
Mm,
of, I got everything I needed to succeed.
yeah.
But for a variety of reasons, actually, and this is quite sad. I mean, my parents had their own issues.
Mhm.
Um, but one of the problems, this is going to sound weird, but my mom was a nurse who ultimately didn't practice because in those days, like my dad had made good money and
Yeah.
the woman stayed home. And I suspect that was not happy for her. But
Oh,
um, being a nurse, she studied Spock, Dr. Spock.
oh my gosh, so did my mom.
Well, and it turned out
Uh,
I had some actual physical bowel issues.
mm,
So I would cry, and Dr. Spock said, just let them cry until they
right.
stop.
Mm,
So
mm,
I my earliest memories, I did not connect with my parents. I had
right.
already decided that I couldn't count on them,
Oh,
which is sad. I feel bad because
mhm.
they tried hard
Of
to be
course.
parents and stuff, but
Yeah.
they had their own issues, and I had already decided. And I look back, and now I think they were the perfect parents for me to be
Mm,
me because I got
mm,
all the stuff I needed to do sports well and all the
right.
stuff to school and I got all that. I got around people to so that I had expectations I mean
Hmm.
I did never considered anything but being a
Mm,
lawyer or maybe a doctor.
hmm. Interesting.
That's a
Hmm.
you know
Hmm.
that's a cultural mindset, and
Absolutely.
which turned out to be good and everything. So I got a lot, and it turned out later I've discovered I had an attachment disorder. That's where a lot of this came from, and why connection's been so important, and why. See, but the good part is I've had to learn how to connect.
Hmm.
Like a lot of people just grow up and they just connect.
Right.
So they can't really share how they go down that or teach somebody how to connect or know the feeling of going around having people around you but
Hmm.
not really being connected.
Right.
It's kind of crazy making,
Hmm.
but you don't understand.
Hmm.
And then having that feeling when I started to get, that's how I really got why I did so much of this personal growth thing. I
Right.
started in these groups to have a feeling, a felt sense of connection.
Yeah. Interesting,
And
because when you were
yes,
younger, you may have had the perception of connection because you had so many friends and you were always doing stuff and you thought, yeah, I'm connected, but you didn't have the feeling of connection, which is
yeah,
a distinct difference.
yeah. And I
Yeah.
didn't, and of course I didn't know I didn't. I
Right. Of
didn't know about
course.
it.
Hmm.
So when I can actually more, I remember one particular time in one personal growth seminar where I had like, it just was
Oh,
like, and I started to cry and I didn't cry. That
yeah.
was another thing I had to
Yeah.
learn to cry.
Oh, yeah.
Because, back in the day,
Back in the
maybe it
day.
happens now, but particularly little boys, stop crying, I'll give you something to cry about.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah. Yeah, we grew up
and
with that too.
oh yeah. But I look back now and I look at like it was like I have like I wouldn't write a good book on good parenting about my parents, but I have nothing but love and affection
Yeah.
for what they did and how they did it. And
Mm. How lovely is that?
those are the places I grew and developed, and I was meant for this. Like this,
Mm.
um, I loved being a trial lawyer, but it wasn't the same as this. This is my spare time is what I do. And, whether I be paid or not, I do it. It's what I
Yeah.
like to read about. I do still
Yeah.
do personal growth workshops as a person, as a participant. I
Yeah.
love everything about it,
Um,
um, which has got me to another theory I have. Now, this might be to justify my tendency to overwork, but my theory is work does not tire you.
hmm.
Resistance to work tires you.
Mm.
And that
Hmm.
resistance can come in another place and it can be just doing too much and
Yeah.
then we're too tired. But it can also, you don't really want to do, like, this is my calling. There's no question
Hmm.
it's my vocation and avocation. So I don't have that kind of resistance.
Yeah.
Um, Over time, I, yeah, I've learned how to slow down, do less so that I'm not resenting. Because as soon as I start to resent or think, oh, I don't want to do this, like that'll tire me.
Hmm. Hmm.
And I do see it's one of the things, and I say humanize the legal profession. What it is about helping people get in touch with who they are, what their vision and values are, and practice in a way that's where they're in integrity with themselves.
Yeah. Yeah. So
And
you're removing some resistance, right?
yeah, and
Yeah.
remove the resistance.
Yeah.
And it may be, some lawyers, I've known some lawyers who that's their whole life. And
That being resistance to work?
no, the law. And
Okay.
and they do big trials and they teach
Mhm.
and they be benchers and CBA and they do all this and they're thriving because it's their calling.
Right.
And um and then I've known some who are they mostly come in here who are, billing 2,500 hours a year. Well,
Big number.
that's nothing. Like the real healthy people might be billing a lot, but
Mm.
they're not, that's not what they identify. That's just something that
Right. Uh-huh.
happens.
Uh-huh.
They're they're expressing themselves. They're helping
Okay.
people,
Yeah.
doing stuff.
Hmm.
And so I know you can do it. It just means um, adapting. It just means adapting and finding ways. And I
Hmm.
am hearing about other lawyers and law firms that are starting to create alternative ways of practicing that aren't so, okay, you've got to bill 2,500 or 2,000 hours, or you've got to, but other ways. I think you had Richard Johnson
We
and
did. Yeah.
he's doing that in his little firm, and others
Yeah.
out there doing it. And it's a good movement
Hmm.
because
Hmm.
there for a good part of my legal career, I remember sitting in trials,
Yeah.
particularly jury trials, but the kind of trials I like to do. I remember being there going, wow, I can't believe I'm getting paid to do this.
Right.
It was
Right.
it's hard work, but
Hmm.
what I say is that's the fun part. Like when you're
Yeah.
doing what you love,
Yeah.
the routine stuff is okay.
Yeah.
But the challenging stuff is what brings me alive, brings you alive
Right.
because it's what you want to do.
Yeah.
And law can be like that. And it's sad when I see somebody dragging through and either they're in the wrong place, doing the wrong thing,
Yeah.
or that's contrary, I mean, contrary to their values, or they've just got they overworked or they've lost focus. And so they're not getting any joy out of it.
No,
And I go,
yeah. You've made a really good point around this idea that the challenging stuff brings you to life. It really is energizing as long as it's challenges that you want.
yeah, yeah,
Right? They have to be challenges that you enjoy pursuing or, accepting the challenge, so to speak, taking the
yeah.
call sort of thing. And when the challenge is something that is, when you're feeling a resistance to it, or if it's draining to you because you're not interested, or it's just not your strength, you don't want to play, it is truly exhausting. So it's this, reminding me of a quote, and I can't repeat it here because I can't remember it as long, but it's essentially saying that work and play are the same thing, right? When work and play, when you can't tell the difference, that's the ideal, that you
Yeah,
really can't tell the difference.
yeah.
And when you're in integrity, following your values and aligning yourself with the things that excite you and interest you and that are elevating you to new levels that you want for yourself, that's good stuff.
Oh, it's fabulous. Yeah. I used to say my wife got me to stop because she thought I was overworking, but I used to like to say work is more fun than fun. And
Yeah.
and it is because it's got
Yeah.
it's satisfying.
It's
Work's
got,
got a
yeah.
bad rap because of so many people that are having a job or
Yeah.
just bleh.
Yeah.
But the actual work is actually an expression of creativity and love.
Yeah. Oh, that's
And
beautiful.
yeah.
Work is an
So
expression of creativity and love.
yeah.
That's beautiful.
My
Yeah.
contribution to the world, I guess. But I don't even look at it, people say, well, look at that. I don't actually look at it in that way. I look at it like not what I've done in a sense, but the privilege I've had of doing this, that I'm
Mm,
living my calling.
yeah.
Like, so it's not like the sense satisfaction of, oh, I've done all this or I achieved this. It's more like, wow, what a gift that I've been allowed or
Yeah.
enabled or
Hmm.
held to be able
Hmm.
to do this.
Hmm.
Uh, and yeah, and that's a nice feeling.
Very
Um,
nice. And being able to now support the way you're doing that to help others access that same experience that you're
right.
having,
Yeah.
right?
So yeah, and so I wanted to say that because that's what I mean by humanize, getting people back to valuing themselves and their
Yeah,
values and vision, and showing up in their own unique way.
exactly.
Um,
Yeah.
and I think that, well, like as I said, there has been some shift, and there's shifting happening in the profession, and I'm, it's a long, hard thing because another thing, law is built on stare decisis, or it's about maintaining the status quo.
Mm, mhm,
So
mhm.
it's going to shift slowly, but it's
Yeah.
shifting.
Yeah.
And yeah, can't
I think there
remember.
are a lot of industries like that that are built on a culture of maintaining the status quo,
Yeah,
particularly for well-established industries. There's a lot of that. And, to your point, there is a shift happening. And, if we remember that work is an opportunity for creativity and love and to fully express in integrity our values and the things that are important to us, then work can really be tireless instead of tiring.
exactly.
Yeah, it's beautiful. So it's lovely to see. I just want to, if I may, share with you my experience of you. When we first started talking about your journey early on, how your energy has shifted. If you really started talking about your purposeful work and your joy and what brings you to light, it's just lovely to see that transition in you as well as you think back to some harder days when things didn't work quite as you would hope they might,
No.
to where we are now. So it's absolutely gorgeous. Um, Derek, so just as we're winding up, I am curious, as you're reflecting on your story from the 8-year-old boy and earlier to where you are now, is there anything specific or anything that has stood out for you that you might like to highlight for our listeners?
Hmm. Well, um, a number of things. One of the
Mhm.
things is I've always been a player, and and but what I mean is I've never been I've always participated, no matter where I've been or what I've done. I dive
Nice.
in and I do it. Now,
Hmm.
and that included when I was off course, and that
Yeah,
you know, there's a pejorative way of calling, oh, that guy's a player.
right.
Um,
All in.
and and I was that. But it was all on this same spectrum of
Hmm.
somebody who I just want to contribute to things. I want to, and
Yeah.
part of it is driven by this that's desire to connect, which I
Hmm.
was missing. But
Hmm.
part of it is just my desire to make the world a better place. And I think I've always, well, I don't think I know I've always wanted that.
Hmm.
Um, I've always thought, yeah, people ought to get along,
Yeah.
and that. So I think I know that's been consistent.
Yeah.
And I played a lot of team sports because of that,
Hmm.
as opposed to individual sports. So a lot of what I've done has been in groups,
Hmm.
and um, uh, well, a lot of it.
Hmm.
So I guess that's a consistent one. Um, so there's probably many others.
Okay.
Trying to think. I I guess I always had the ability when I look back
Hmm.
to think and see patterns.
Hmm.
Even when I was little, I could see
Hmm.
patterns as
Hmm.
opposed to the just the granular.
Hmm.
So I wasn't so taken by just granular. I'd look, oh wow, and I'd
Hmm.
see. It's kind of
Mm.
like what I saw in John Diefenbaker, shall I say?
Right.
But even in the law, I saw the pattern of it. Like it's not just this one case or this one argument. There's a huge like Plato called it justice, truth, and beauty as the three pillars of actual
Ah,
life, really. And so justice and legal professions role in it is incredibly important. And so looking at that level, I can see the importance of the whole thing.
mhm.
And I don't lose track of each individual. If if an individual gets healthier or more engaged, um,
Mhm.
that helps the whole system get
Mhm.
healthy. So, I'm systems theory and stuff I'm
Mhm.
really drawn to, um,
Mhm.
because I see us all interconnected in a
Mhm.
way that I actually I can sort of see it, but I really feel it, the interconnection of everything.
Yeah.
And yeah, and I think when I was younger, well, even now it's hard, but when I was younger, um, I was trying to make the world more linear.
Uh-huh.
Uh, and that wasn't my natural way. It was,
Interesting.
I could do it
Yeah.
in defined roles, like writing the factum or something, but more, it was from a bigger, trying to
Yeah.
see the bigger thing. And that wasn't richly acknowledged and rewarded or taught when I was young. That was
Right.
not, it's not how you got your gold stars and A's.
Right. Yeah,
So,
there's you've highlighted a few really key ideas here for I think anyone in their career and anyone in their entrepreneurial journey or even their life. Um, the one thing you said was always a player, but I want to highlight that what you were playing for was to make the world a better place and to connect with others. So all in, make the world a better place and connect with others. That was your game, if you will, as
right.
you were playing. Then the other one that you said was around seeing patterns for you, seeing patterns and connecting systems thinking. Understand how you think. understand how you interact with the world. And in your case, it was around systems thinking or the whole ecosystem, if you will. If you can understand how you're oriented, makes a big difference to how you can bring your creativity and love into your work. You also said the importance of connecting to the work. I don't think that was your language, but in understanding the importance of your work and connecting to that. You said justice, truth, and beauty. You
Yeah,
understood the role of justice and the importance of that work. And I think that really lights up and helps us see our value. So
right.
understanding the importance of our work and really connecting to that in the bigger ecosystem. And then interesting, you finished with healthy individuals help the whole system, and you took it right down to the individual in person,
Yeah,
right? And so you went straight from granular right through to the higher system. So thank you for sharing that. There's a lot of wisdom in that. Appreciate
thank
you.
you.
Yeah.
Yeah, yes.
So much. So Derek, for those people who would like to learn more or perhaps connect with you, where might they be able to find you today?
Well, at the Lawyer's Assistance Program,
Okay.
that's the main place.
Mm-hmm.
You can go on to our website,
Mm-hmm.
uh,
I'll make sure that
and
link is available for people.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that would be good. Or you can contact me directly at Derek, Derek, at LAPBC.com.
Mm-hmm.
Or they can, well, I'm not doing as many workshops as I used to. I've got a phenomenal staff here now, a
Great.
team.
Uh,
And you know, program manager Shari Perlman, who does more of the workshops now than I
okay.
used to, but coming to our workshops was a way. Yeah,
Perfect. All righty.
going on
Well,
our website, signing up as a volunteer, whatever.
okay, that sounds good. We'll make sure the website is there and also your email address is there. It's amazing.
Great.
So, Derek,
Thank you.
thank you so much for today and for sharing your story and your wisdom and helping us see the path forward as we consider our own journeys on our
Great.
entrepreneurial ventures. Appreciate you
Yeah.
so much.
Thank you. No, I appreciate it. You're good at this. And, a couple other things. Um, I was thinking, maybe like I'll be retiring or slowing down and blah, blah, blah. And I thought, maybe I could do the odd trial or junior some young people on a
Oh,
trial, put on my robes. And then I started thinking about what's involved.
uh-huh.
I don't really want to do the intense prep where you sit by yourself in your office so
Oh,
you can go and enjoy doing a trial.
yeah,
And what I came to is I've come to a place in my life where I realize I still love trials, but now I love talking about trials.
there you
And
go.
I still
Oh,
love, like, there's nothing, like, I can get together with my friends or people I know and just talk about the law and stuff forever. I
oh my
still have a
gosh.
passion for it. You know, just read another Bill Deverell book. And, it's never left, and it's so exciting to me, and so important. And I just hope that all lawyers can get the real, like, I'll call it spiritual importance and
Mm,
sociological importance of the law and what they're doing. Um, yeah, because it just makes it, as I say, fun. And
yeah.
yeah, and I'm not gonna spend hours preparing.
Yeah, exactly. But to your point, again, when you connect with its bigger spiritual, how it fits in the ecosystem, it really
Yeah,
does make it much more fun.
yeah, it does. I,
Well, absolute delight. Thank you so much.
thank,
We'll talk again
thank you.
soon. All
Okay,
right.
thanks. Bye
Bye
for
for
now.
now.